Alright guys, at number 1, and technically this is the first of a 3-chapter full game called Legends of Astravia. Just in case you're already wondering, the second and the final chapter will both release as DLCs later as standalone games as well. A story-rich, supposedly turn-based and exploration-based Japanese-inspired role-playing game. We'll check it out. The game's sitting on Steam through a playable demo and set to be released by the end of 2022. Coming up behind that, and still my own favorite retro-inspired game in the making for the past few years, Sea of Stars, well, from the same developers of The Messenger that's actually been in the works since 2017, is now supposedly releasing early to mid 2023. It is going to be released for Switch, PCs, and other consoles too. Sea of Stars is, in case you're wondering, heavily influenced by Chrono Trigger with a similar turn-based combat, and last but not least, even composed, technically soundtracked, by the same team who did the original Chrono Trigger almost 30 years back. Check it out, just in case you missed it.
Only then, after the echoes of the crowd's applause have faded into silence, can music begin anew.
At number 3, we've got once again the one and only SacriFire. Well, for those of you new, first and foremost, a 90s inspired role-playing game from years back that just went on and announced a delayed release window of 2023. Now basically releasing on every single platform in addition to PCs and Switch. SacriFire also then just got itself a new trailer if you have been patiently waiting, and just so you know, still live through the Kickstarter. Take a quick look.
Demons! Damn you! Feel Shale's power!
Moving on is the old 16-bit RPG in development since almost 2 years back, Chained Echoes, which is technically a story-driven exploration-based Japanese role-playing game to be specific, quite frankly one of the liveliest 2D pixel art games in the making ever since. And now, since earlier this year, just in case you missed out on the update through a new trailer, releasing November to December this year. Check it out, Chained Echoes is on its way to the PCs, Switch, Xbox One, and the PlayStation 4 too. Here.
More classics are coming your way, dude.
Check this out, dude!
Moving on, and technically this is actually the oldest game in today's list. It literally came out first and only in Japan around 25 years back, was something here called Rhapsody, a musical adventure. Some of you might have been already familiar with as the puppet princess of Marl Kingdom, a tactical role-playing game at its core that literally last time were ported to the Nintendo DS back in 2008. Well, last but not least, now on its way to the Nintendo Switch and due out August 30th, in addition to PCs.
What an awesome collection, dude!
At number 5, and with only 3 more weeks to go on the Kickstarter, over here we have an adventure-action hybrid as described by developers and set in a colorful world inspired by The Legend of Zelda and Studio Ghibli, with handcrafted pixel art going by the name Kloa, Child of the Forest, and pretty much inspired by old retro classics that's now coming over to basically all consoles and now with only a release window of mid to late 2023. Check it out.
Moonbury's residents need healing, and you're the best chemist around.
P-Cube, on the other hand, just came out and finally announced a release date for Potion Permit that it's eventually now releasing for PCs, Switch, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and due out September 22nd this year. Frankly, not really much to talk about with this one. Well, we did get a new trailer, but just in case you're wondering how it really works, the game is sitting on Steam right now through a playable demo as well. Check it out.
Tools, a brewing cauldron, and a canine companion at your side, you'll need to diagnose symptoms, gather ingredients, brew potions, and cure ailments in this open-ended sim RPG.
At number 7, but once again by Stagesoft and Dangan Entertainment, actually available since February this year with an almost 10 out of 10 review score on Steam since release, a turn-based, retro-themed, almost Japanese role-playing game called Rise of the Thirds. I would say I would easily recommend this to anybody who's looking for a relatively simple role-playing game and appreciates good music as well, with a decent story campaign and a good size of it too. Check it out. The game's taking you down about $20 and roughly about 40 hours of playthrough. Moving on, we've got Vessels of Decay, a retro-inspired, as you can see, action-adventure, what developers of which describe to be strongly focused on combat and player autonomy. The game's in a post-apocalyptic-ish Scandinavia aesthetic that, well, came our way first earlier this year. Honestly, this is to be one of the smoothest and best looking pixelated and Zelda-inspired games I've been seeing for a while. However, a release date for this one is still yet to be announced, so just keep it in mind for now. Moving on with over twice its initial funding goal gathered so far on the Kickstarter. But we have here the one and only farming sim that's been sitting on Steam through early access since last year with very positive review scores. Something going on here called Sunhaven. Technically, if you do like Stardew Valley but prefer to have a bit more action going around, I would suggest giving it a shot. Game's a PC exclusive and now available for $24. It is getting tons of new updates and online service as well. Check it out. Well, next up by the fine folks at Castle Pixel, we have here Blossom Tales 2, the miniature prince that just got itself a release date and now a new trailer too. Supposedly the game is releasing August 16 for consoles and PCs, Switch included of course, and it is described by developers as a brand new style of classic action adventures and at its heart an exploration-based hack and slasher. Check it out just in case you missed it. An exploration-driven action-adventure role-playing game and set in ancient India about a young demigod. Well, moving on here we have a game called Mayu, the Last of the Yaksha. Technically a 16-bit style, or is it 8? I'm not really sure. Exploration-based and adventure role-playing game at its heart. And obviously, as you've guessed, inspired by Indian myths and legends. Here's a trailer from only hours ago. The game itself is supposed to be released early next year and for PCs only. Take a look. At number 12, we have once again, Elementallis, coming from an indie developer and described as a classic top-down adventure with a modernized retro aesthetic. Obviously, as you can see, this one's already gathered more than double its original goal on the Kickstarter, I've been led to believe, and due out possibly later this year and into every single platform as well. Check it out. And last but not least, honestly, this has to be one of the cutest games in development right now, kicking tons of nostalgia with it. A game called Mystiqa, technically a traditional non-linear Zelda-inspired action-adventure with built-in randomizers, local and online multiplayer as described by its developers with boss fights, dungeons, puzzles, upgrades, you name it. This one's releasing by the end of 2022 we hear, and for all consoles in addition to PCs.